So today we're going to be talking about EDC lights, and that I guess covers just flashlights that you can put in your pocket that you carry around, and it also covers lights that you would put on your gun, like something like this or something like this Olight, not something like this, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Rhett decided to slack off a little bit today and didn't quite bring all this EDC stuff that he should have.
I didn't know we were getting okay.
This was kind of an improvised video, so we were planning on doing something else, and this came from it. So today we're going to be talking about things that you should consider, I guess, whenever you're buying like an EDC light, or what kind of EDC light you should carry, or what types of EDC lights you should carry, because there's not just one light that's going to cover every need you have. You're going to need something for your gun, which we'll talk about. You're going to need a handheld flashlight, which we'll talk about. You might need a second handheld flashlight, which we'll talk about. Might be a little over the top, maybe some people might consider, but we're going to explain kind of our reasonings as to why. So first and foremost, I guess let's go over candela versus lumens and how many lumens you're really looking for.
All of them.
Yeah, you want all the lumens. So in our opinion, there's no such thing as too many lumens. People talk about, oh, I need, only such and such amount, because if you have to clear a building or you have to clear your house or wherever you're at, and you'll blind yourself, let's say in a mirror or off a bright wall or something.
And say unless you absolutely have to clear your house, don't ever clear your house.
Yeah.
If you think that someone's actually in there, stand outside and call the police. Yeah. Let them clear it.
Call the police department. I mean, if you got kids or something, you have to go check on them. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you know for sure someone's in your house, like,
I mean, like if you come home and your kids and wife are supposed to be there and the front door's been kicked open. Okay.
Well, yeah, if you're outside. I'm talking about if you're inside the house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're outside your house and you come home and the door's open, and you know that none of your family is there, yeah, call the police and let them clear your house for them. That's what he's paid for. Let him do the dangerous stuff.
Well, I get shot, not
yeah,
you.
let him get shot, not at somebody else. If you're in your house, obviously that's different already. But we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. So, candela versus lumens. In my opinion, I think you should at least have, for a EDC light, we're going to talk about the differences between an EDC light and like a fighting light, which would be more this category. An EDC light is more of like an admin light, something you carry around to find your keys, or, oh, I dropped my phone somewhere in my truck and I have to look around for it, or I'm going out to my shed and I don't have lights out there, so I got to look at the ground while I'm going. It's not something that you're trying to illuminate your entire area. It's just something you're just trying to find your way or find stuff with, which I would consider something like this little Streamlight. This is a MicroStream. It's like 250 lumens, I think, something like that. It's rechargeable, and its low is like 100 lumens. I don't remember, something like that. I'm sure you can Google just as easily as someone else can. But that would be something more for like, just looking for stuff. A normal flashlight use that everyone not tactical would think of. Now, something like that I would say that also would probably work for that too would be something like this. This is an ElChipo light. You can find these all over the place on Amazon. It has a little focus thing here that comes in and out. It's like, I don't remember how bright it is, but it's got 3 little modes, and everybody makes these. You can get them for like $2 on Amazon. They usually come in like a pack of 5 or 6. I wouldn't trust my life to this, but as just a searching around for stuff light, it works pretty well. I keep one of these in all my vehicles. I keep them in drawers all over the house. I have tons of these things, and I've only ever had one break on me, and I was able to fix it. So there's that. But I still think getting a nice light has its merits. So if I had to suggest one light, it would probably be this little guy, for something for small. If you're just wanting to, not have 8,000 things in your pocket, something small. But I would think minimum for that, you need probably 100 lumens to actually see something.
Yeah.
Okay. So candela in regards to this kind of light doesn't really matter, in my opinion. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about a little bit with candela versus lumens is, I guess we'll talk about candela first and why it's important. And again, for an admin light, it's not really that important. And we're going to show you all these lights up close and kind of the pros and cons of these specific lights. These are ones we've had experience with, and there's a couple off camera we'll show you as well. And there's some that we don't have here that
my bad,
that he normally carries on him that we can't show you right now, but down the road maybe, sure. Candela is important for what I would say a fighting light more than it is for an admin light. I would say the same with lumens as well. You can kind of cheap out when it comes to an admin light, but for a fighting light, I would say you need at least 300 lumens.
Good.
Yeah. 300 lumens is a bare minimum, and this thing is right at 250 whenever it's fully charged on the brightest, and it's bright enough where you can kind of get away with using it, but the moment you have to illuminate something that's partially illuminated already, or say you have like a street light in the background, or there's like a bright light behind what you're looking at, this isn't going to be enough to defeat that other light, which you get into the whole photonic barriers kind of, scientific stuff. which we're not going to nerd out here, but basically it's trying to defeat another light source with your light source. And a good way to represent that is, for the whole photonic barrier thing, is take a light that's like this one, it's like 250. So that's pretty bright, but as soon as you illuminate something like this, the other light disappears. So if I'm shining this one at you, and you have this light, and you shine this at me, I see no benefit from this whatsoever. Like, this light essentially doesn't exist. So that's why lumens and candela distances matter when it comes to that whole photonic barrier. Now, if you get into a gunfight with somebody else who also has a weapons light or, a tactical light or something, I guess now you're fighting somebody that's...
Probably knows what they're doing.
Probably knows what they're doing, too. You should probably just run if you can. But, worst case scenario, that's why we carry anyways. So why would you need a fighting light instead of just using an admin light? Red.
I think, if you carry a gun like this is a PX4 Storm Compact. I haven't found a light that fits on this rail yet. It's got a slot. It's got a rail and a slot, but I haven't found a light that fits on it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's comfort. A lot of people like my size. You got a little overhang.
Yep.
Tactical guts, what they call it.
Tactical shelf.
Yeah, tactical shelf. The comfort with something like because I've tried like when I first got into guns and stuff like that, I was like, you know what, I need a full size gun and light on it and everything. So I got a Glock 19 with a TLR1 on it.
Yeah.
And I tried to carry
nice
that thing around, and it was probably the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done in my life.
Was it a T-Rex arms holster?
Yeah, it was a T-Rex arms sidecar with a Glock 19 and a TLR1 appendix, and it was so uncomfortable. I had a lot of capability.
Yeah.
Like, I was definitely ready.
Full size gun.
I was definitely ready for a gunfight, but in terms of gear.
Yeah.
But
sitting down,
I was like, existence is pain, and so you kind of gravitate away from that. So you go to smaller guns or just a Glock 19 like this without a weapon light.
Yeah. And
then that allows you to have the comfort of not being, cramped down in that area, and you can just have a fighting light like this in your pocket, and have more lumens than this gives you.
Yeah.
And you have the same capabilities in a way, but more comfort.
Yeah. So I guess real quick, we'll cover the difference between why you'd want like a fighting light and what the difference between that is and a pistol light. So with just a regular light that you keep in your pocket, which again, we'll go over all these in a second. Something like this that you can keep in your pocket that's still really bright, like this one has 1,500 lumens. It's capable. Granted, it's only for like a short period of time, but 1,500 lumens is a lot of lumens. This is for searching. Like, people think that, I got a light mounted on my gun. That's what I'll go around and clear stuff with. It's like, well, yeah, that's a bad idea because now you're pointing your gun at literally everything instead of when you could have just searched around with your flashlight, and then if you identify a threat, sure, then you can pull out your gun. But why would you, go into the shopping center and you're walking out in the parking lot and, you think you see a suspicious person. You're not just going to light them up with your gun flashlight. You would light them up, maybe a bad term, bad phrase to use, but you would illuminate them with this light. You wouldn't illuminate them with your gun light because now you're pointing your gun at them too, which is illegal.
Someone who doesn't necessarily deserve to have a gun pointed at them.
Exactly. You should only be using this light if you're justified in shooting, basically.
Right.
Because you are pointing the gun at them. So this light, again, is for identifying, searching. This light is for finding your keys, and then this light is for shooting.
Or this light is for shooting.
Yeah. So another train of thought, you could also use a fighting light if for some reason you don't have a weapons mounted light. You could use your fighting light, your handheld light, in whatever position you wanted to use, or you could have it and I forgot what this one's called, but you can use it like this. You can do the whole FBI, kind of over your
neck index.
Yeah, neck index. There's all kinds of stuff you can use. So just know that there are things that you can do with this, so you don't necessarily need one of these, but whenever you can get something that's as small as like this Olight, why wouldn't you? There's no reason not to, in my opinion, other than cost.
Or like the Streamlight TLR7.
Yeah,
essentially the same size as that. It's a little bigger, but you get more lumens. Yeah. So.
And I would say, just from brand, I would definitely put Surefire. Obviously, it's top tier. I would probably put Streamlight underneath that. And then I would put Olight underneath that. Yeah. Olight, I'm sorry, and that's just because Olight hasn't been around a while. Yeah. And I have some. I'll do a video on this light specifically. I have some very obvious complaints that Olight should have known about. But other than that, it's a great light. But they just haven't been around long enough to make a track record. Yeah, that's up to where Streamlight and Surefire have been. So they're the new guy on the block, so they got to earn their way in just like everybody else. How about that? So whenever you're carrying, especially like an appendix, if you're carrying somewhere else, size of the light doesn't matter necessarily as much. But if you're a skinny dude like me, like you can kind of get away with carrying bigger stuff. Versus if you have a little bit of a gut or, you know, somewhere else on you, you may not have the room. So try, if you have buddies that have holsters that have different guns and stuff, try out their stuff first before you go buying something like we do. And we have like 18 holsters laying around that we don't use and 27 lights and guns that we no longer carry because they weren't comfortable or they didn't work for us or whatever. So, which leads me to another point. Comfort, if you're worried about comfort, stop it. Insert the old Mad TV sketch of the psychiatrist that you tell stop it at the patient the entire time. Like that would be me. Carrying a gun is not meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be comforting, to quote Clint Smith, which I agree with 100%. I used to be on the whole page of, I'm going to carry, you know, this tiny little light, and I had like 4 bullets, you know, or whatever. I had like 6. It was a Glock 43. Better than nothing, but capability is lacking. Now I carry Glock 19 all the time, and the Olight is always on it. But a lot more capability with this. It's not as comfortable, sure, but it's not like I'm being jabbed with needles or anything. It's slightly inconvenient. That's it. And if you're bothered by slightly inconvenient, you probably why are you carrying a gun anyways? It's already inconvenient. Like, get over it. So don't worry about comfort. And if you carry something like this, I mean, he's carrying a PX4 Storm over here. Like, that's basically a full size gun. It's a compact version of it.
Yeah, it's a 19. I mean, it's almost the same size as a 19.
Yeah, so it's 19 size. So they're essentially full size guns, depending on who you ask. Once you carry this long enough, it'll be uncomfortable for the first few weeks. You get used to it, and I don't even notice it anymore. Yeah. So, but again, how your physique
and where you carry it. Like if you carry like on the hip, you might as well have a weapon light.
Yeah.
If you carry like 4 or 5 o'clock, you might as well have a full size.
Yeah. If you're open carrying or shoot like
if you open carry like in a holster,
like you better have like 33 round mag.
You better have like the biggest light they make on that gun because. You might at that point.
Yeah, at that point, like if you're open carrying, like size doesn't matter anymore, other than like sitting in a vehicle. Like,
or
that
like,
could be obnoxious.
And what bothers me, and this doesn't really apply, but like when cops carry guns that don't have weapon lights on them, I'm like, bro.
Like you're carrying a holster that's already super uncomfortable.
You're in uniform with a duty belt, mags, gun, taser, all this stuff.
Everybody weighs 10 pounds. Like
my belt weighs my belt weighs like 15, 20 pounds.
Yep.
Can't be bothered to put a weapon light on your gun.
Yeah. I will say, side note, if you are open carrying like on the side for whatever reason, and you get a holster that is like weapons light capable, sitting in vehicles is gonna be more difficult because it takes up more space going down. So that's just something to consider. So if you don't have anything else specifically about what we talked about a second ago, we're gonna show you guys kind of the up close and kind of a quick little mini review on each of these lights and why we either do or don't suggest them or what we do and don't like about them. So anything else?
Nope.
All right, let's get to it. All right, guys, so we're going to be covering each of these lights individually. We're going to be starting with this one right here. This is the Streamlight MicroStream. This is the USB version. They make one that takes like, you can see the little port right there. They have one that just takes AAA batteries. It's not as bright as this one. I would suggest this one. Really tiny. So this is what I carry. Obviously, you can tell every single day. The finish on this thing is just wearing off, and that's because it's right up next to my pocket knife all the time, so it just grinds away at there. I absolutely love this light. It's great. I use it all the time. Whenever I'm going outside in the backyard and I don't have lights out there, so I just use this thing to search around, or if I drop something, or I use it at work all the time just to do admin stuff. Whenever you don't need 1,000 lumens, this thing works just fine. It's 250 lumens, or on low it's like 90, something like that. I don't remember. You can look it up. But I love this light. It comes in handy. It's pretty rugged. It comes with a little clip on there. You can clip it on your hat. I don't know anybody who does that, but if someone does, have at it. Do you have anything to say about this light?
Yeah, so I have one of these lights too, and what I do with it, oh wow, that close to the camera here, I clip it on the front of my right breast pocket on my vest at work, and it kind of hangs down like this, clipped to the front of my body, and I use it to, like on one night shift, I click on it, and I read people's driver's license with it, because the only other light I have on my belt is like 1,000 lumen surefire, so it's kind of inconvenient to hold that big chunky thing all over it, so I use it to read people's driver's licenses, and I use it to do sobriety tests on people.
Okay.
Because I don't want to put the 1,000 lumen light in their eyes. That can sometimes change the outcome of the test because it does things to their pupils and that kind of thing in their eyes. And
interesting.
And does their behavior, changes their behavior a little bit. So I use it a lot for that, and I also use it for searching cars because. Okay. It's just easier to handle, and inside of a vehicle, you don't need 1,000 lumens to see what's under a seat or inside of a glove box or something like that. You can just kind of, Just need a little bit of light, so I use that a lot. Mine quite a bit actually.
One thing I will say about that is this version is the low first. So if you click it, it's low. You have to kind of double click to get the bright, and it doesn't really show on camera, but it's hard to get used to how you have to click it to get the bright. Like he didn't even know it had the bright mode originally.
I didn't.
Because it's not just a normal double tap, like it's a 1, 2, like to get the bright mode. Like it's weird. You have to practice it. They make a tan version that is bright first and then dim. That's what I would suggest getting. Granted, it's in tan. I don't know why they don't make both versions in both colors, but whatever. Streamlight, if you're listening, which I know you're not, make the black version where it comes in bright first and then dim. So that was kind of dumb. Just know that once you get used to it, it's not a big deal. But I would prefer you get the one, at least if I had to do it all over again, I get the one that gets bright first.
Yep.
All right, so something like this, ElChipo, Amazon, it works. For the size of this thing, though, you can literally carry an actual light. So I personally wouldn't do something like this, but I mean, if you're really poor, like, I mean, name of this channel, like if you got no money and you just need a light that'll work, this will work.
Well, like I said, I think it works for what you said, and you keep it around for just in your truck and that kind of stuff, just for everyday stuff. It's fine.
It's just a normal flashlight.
If you're looking for stuff on this table, it's excellent.
Yeah. Well, and I've carried this thing back when I was on the midnight shifts, and it will illuminate if you can focus this thing. So it's got the strobe, and it's got bright, dim. So you can focus this really tight, and this will actually go out to almost 100 yards. Now, you're not going to be able to identify somebody out to 100 yards, but you can see that someone's there. Right. So it's capable. It's just cheap. No, if you drop this a couple times, it's probably not going to survive it. So
or once.
Yeah, or once. Keep it in your truck. Keep this in your back pocket, whatever you want. It works just fine as a normal flashlight, but it's not a fighting light. But for the size, All right, so next on the list, you have anything else to say about that?
Nope.
All right, so next on the list, this is a new flashlight. I just got it a week or two ago, and I've been using it. I have some complaints about it. If you keep keys in your pocket, no. If you put this in your pocket, because it's light end up, the tail switch goes down in your pocket.
The frame is bezel up.
Yeah, bezel up. Okay, fancy. But anyway, so the bottom of this is magnetized. Not all Olights are magnetized on the bottom. The charging port cable is, but not all the bottom ones are. So you could like stick this to something that's metal and it'll stay there. If you keep this in the same pocket as your keys, just know you're going to have some NDs with your flashlight. I was walking around Walmart and I was like, why is my pocket hot? And it's because my keys had gotten stuck to this thing and they had pressed against and turned on the light in my pocket. So that's dumb. You should be able to switch this around to where you can put the bezel down. But, Olight, if you're listening, change that.
Which they're not.
They're not. It would have taken all 3 seconds to mill out a spot over here where you can put this, flip it around, do the other way. The other thing I don't like about this is the little buttons right here. It's really easy to push.
Aren't you kind of ruining your review of this individual light with this?
Maybe a little bit. So, again, I'll do a full review of this whenever I've carried it for a while. But it's really easy to hit this button. It takes absolutely no force whatsoever. Versus something like this, where like this is a Nitecore. You actually have to press it in pretty hard. Now, this one, it only controls the modes, but it's just a good example. So the button right here, you can see it changes the dim. But you actually have to press it in pretty hard in order to actuate that button. Versus this one, it's like you just kind of sneeze in its general direction. Again, this turns it on, and I've turned it on in my pocket multiple times just pulling it out of my pocket because that button gets hit. So just know its limitations. You also can't put this in with your phone because it's a magnet, so that sucks. So I usually keep it in my back pocket or really, really off to the side in my main pocket where I keep my keys, so it hopefully doesn't attach itself to them. So just know that going into it. Other than that, it's an awesome light. It's like 1500 on turbo mode, which is like 4 or 5 minutes of runtime. Then from there it goes like 500 lumens, and that's its normal mode. We just tested it out in the backyard here a second ago, and it's incredibly bright, which I've done a couple times.
It's a good balance between candela and lumens, I think, for 95% of EDC type stuff, and even for fighting stuff. I think
I would say this is a good 50 to 75 yard light. It's not a huge flood, but it's also not a good beam necessarily either. It is kind of a middle of the road.
I mean, I wouldn't put it on a rifle or anything.
No, this is not a rifle light by any stretch of the imagination, but it is a good light to carry in your pocket. So this is a good example of a fighting light, because if you've identified somebody, 4 or 5 minutes is a long time for 1500 lumens, and still 500 lumens is still really bright. So good light.
If you're in a gunfight, one-on-one gunfight for 5 minutes, you
probably messed up.
Hard.
In fact, you're still alive, or you're just hiding behind cover and you haven't moved yet.
You gotta be smart, depending on the situation.
I mean, that's true. Hey, in which case, save your battery life, turn it to 500 lumens. All right, so the next flashlight on the list is going to be Nightcore. As you can see, hopefully it'll focus on that. There it goes. So this is the Nightcore. This is the P12 model. It's a 1,000 lumen flashlight, and you can change the lumen output, low, medium, high. I've had these lights for a while. I'm not a huge, I like Nightcore. The one light that I have is awesome, but this light itself has a battery drain on it, so whenever I put batteries in it, over time, it slowly drains itself, which is obnoxious. But I usually just keep it on the low mode, and I don't keep batteries in this one specifically. I could send it back, but I don't care enough. It was $50. It's not worth the hassle. So just know that you might want to test yours and see if it has a battery drain or drains the batteries before you decide to carry it every single day, because otherwise you're going to pull it out and have a dead light. But other than that, it's pretty good. It's, in my opinion, too bulky to carry as a EDC light for like a fighting light, because the thing's massive. And something like this or something like this is a little bit smaller, and you can actually carry it in your pocket. Like, again, unless you're carrying like a man purse or satchel or something like that. Which, maybe you are. If you are, then carry yourself a big spotlight in that sucker. Do you want to talk about your surefire?
Yeah. So this is the surefire tactician, or it's the E2 E2T MV. No, it's just surefire tactician. So this is about an 800 lumen light. It's bezel up, which I don't particularly care for myself, but that's how it was designed, and you can't switch it around, so that's kind of a thing. Tail cap is momentary only. If you spin this around, you can make it constant on, but you don't get a button to make it constant on, which is kind of interesting. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to get used to, but like I said, it's 800 lumens. I'd say it's a good cross between Candela and lumens as well. I would definitely not use it as an everyday just admin light, like looking for stuff, unless you just for some reason have to, because
too bright for that.
It's not too bright necessarily. Its battery life isn't that great. Okay. And if you don't want to bother turning the constant on, it's momentary only, so it's kind of hard to search like moments. Just kind of I don't know. It's weird for me. I don't know what to say. The mod on this thing is the little bungee cord. I put it right here, and it goes around, and then it's stuck to my hand, and I can do all kinds of handheld gun positions with it, and
you can flip it around, put it on the backside of your hand.
Flip it around, put it on the backside of my hand. I can reload. I can manipulate the slide of my gun, magazines, do reloads, malfunction clearance, everything, and I don't have to put my light down or put my light back in my pocket or something like that. So it's pretty cool. And it gets really hot real quick too, so that's another reason I wouldn't use it as an admin light. So it's definitely just a fighting light. Like, I don't use it unless I need to get my gun out too. Yeah, kind of a thing. So, or like you think you might have to get your gun out. Yeah, so it's a good light. I carry another light, and the other light I carry when I carry this light is very similar in size to this one. This one, it's the Streamlight ProTac 2LX. I think it's like 600 lumens, and it's got a constant and momentary button on the end and everything. It's a good light too. It's got good throw, it's got good candela and lumens and all that stuff, but it just doesn't run as hot, and it runs longer. Its battery life is better, so it's a better admin light. Yeah. So. All right, so we've pretty much covered kind of the lights that we've had experience with carrying for just standard lights. Now, next one's one of the ones that's not represented here is the Surefire X300 U, I think is the model. It's a 1,000 lumen model. Yeah. He usually carries it on his duty gun, so you could use it for an EDC, but it's a really long light. That's not. It would be very uncomfortable, and yeah, like something like this, the TLR1 is more compact than it is because it's shorter, but it's still even massive whenever you're going to be, again, depending on how you carry. Well, the difference in between, like, dimension wise for the Streamlight, this one versus the Surefire, is this one, the Streamlight's shorter, but it's fatter. Yeah. So you still get the bulkiness. They're both still very bulky, but if you're going just for length, in the Streamlight is shorter. Yeah. One thing I will say about this is on this light, again, this is the HL model. This is the 800 lumen one, the older one. They now make them where they're 1,000 lumens. The thing I don't like about these is a little toggle switch. So sorry, I'll try not to blind you here. So if you click it up in that position, it stays relatively easy. It's really good for momentary light. It's just a quick little down press. But whenever you lock it into position, it's really easy to accidentally bump this thing and knock it on or knock it off, which also in turn makes it easy to knock on and have an ND when it comes to white light. So if you put this thing on a rifle, which we were talking about a second ago, you're going to have light NDs with these. I took this out and I had it on my gun way back. It was years ago whenever we went to Darcy to do Op 4, and
and I had it on one of my rifles, and you can't use white lights there. And so I was like, okay. So I went to take it off, but I had it on there for the first round because they didn't tell me beforehand. But anyways, so this thing was just bumping against all my gear and constantly just flickering all the time. So I had to take it off like in the middle of one of the runs. But it's super obnoxious. So if you're going to put this on a rifle, you absolutely need their little modification switch to put on the back. You can't run it with this thing on here because it's going to just constantly turn on and off.
You mean for on a rifle?
Yeah, for on a rifle. On a pistol, it's fine. Not a big deal. But
I've even, when I worked for my first apartment, they issued these with the gun. And I've ND'd it on calls before.
Yeah.
Like we're being on night shift, and I'll be like holding an angle on a building or something like that, and I'll like.
And your fingers just kind of.
My finger will slip, or I'll knock it on something and it'll go, whoop, and I'm like, oh, whoops.
Yep.
You know.
And that's just because the switch is too easy to get.
And on rifles, I've ND'd it on the range. I've ND'd it at Darcy too, and all kinds of stuff. It's just, it's a good pistol light, but they need to make this a little bit harder to manipulate. I
agree. I'm sure somebody out there, if someone else is listening, good marketing opportunity. Make this to where, and I'm sure you can tighten this down. That might help a little bit, but make it to where like you put like an O-ring or something in there to make it have more resistance. Because as it is right now, it's too easy to bump this thing on and off. So that's my only complaint about the light. Other than that, it's a great light. So here's an example of not a good light. So this is an NC Star. This is like the very first light I had. I actually had to file off some of the metal to get it to fit on my Glock. And it just has a little spring-loaded thing right here where you slide it on and off. So you'd push this down. If it'll focus, you'd push this down, slide it on. Now it's like 200 lumens or something. It's some ridiculously low number of lumens. So this is, again, it's an NC Star. Don't buy this light. It's junk. Under recoil, after the first round, like it'll start flickering, and so each round after that, like I've had it turn on and off while shooting. So don't buy these. The connections in here aren't good. I mean, it's better than nothing. So if you only have like $25, I would say save up and get something better. But if you literally only have $25, I would say
something you have to consider with weapon-mounted lights also when you're looking at buying them is holster availability.
Yeah, you're not going to find a holster.
You're not going to find a reputable company, or maybe even the crappy companies don't even make weapon holsters for this light.
You might get lucky and find like a universal light holster that it might fit in, but now you're buying multiple holsters to try to find something that may not even work.
So you're spending the same money you would have just buying a good light.
So you just bought 3 or 4 holsters to try to fit your gun, when you could have just bought a TLR 1HL or something like this.
A more common holster. Well, exactly. I would say even, this might be skipping ahead, but even for this light, it's hard to find holsters for.
Yes. So that's something with Olight. This is their older. This is, okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and get into this last one here, and then we'll cut it short, or end the video. It's already going too long. So this is the PL Mini Valkyrie by Olight. I like this light. Their newer one is like 600 lumens, I think. This one's 400. And it's bright for what it is. It's a good little floodlight, and it's tiny. But finding holsters for this thing is a nightmare. For our Glock 19 MOS is like the only one we could find was from Works, like WERKZ. Maybe there's some other companies out there that make them. There's more companies that make the PL Mini 2, so just know that. But something small like this is awesome because you can carry it. It takes up very little space. I like the little actuators down here. You just push them on. They're not too easy to bump. You can't bump it from the sides easily. You have to push down, and it takes a good amount of force. So, and you can obviously just hold down, and it's momentary as well. The little latch QD mount is pretty nice. So it just, you tighten the screw. Where'd it go? Well, anyways, you tighten it down to where it's tight on there. On the newer ones, it has like a little rail that this whole thing will slide back and forth while this is still attached. So that's kind of cool too. So you can adjust it better to different guns. So overall, I like this, but get the PL Mini 2. We just had this before the 2 came out, so it is what it is. But it's still a good light. It's just not as bright as other options that would be out there.
It doesn't have, in my opinion, it doesn't have very good throw.
Yeah.
It's more
the Candela is bad.
Close, like inside of a house distances. If you're like outside, this light's gonna have a hard time punching through photonic barriers.
Yeah, I would say 25 yards is the max of that, and that's even pushing it. So, anyways, hopefully y'all found this useful. Did you have anything else to say?
Nope.
All right, so hopefully you found this useful. Give us a like if you like this kind of stuff. This was us just kind of last minute video idea. Just kind of thought, you guys might benefit from this or enjoy it. If you have any questions about lights, we have used other lights that aren't necessarily here, so we can give you some opinion on that. But if you comment down below, any questions, I answer every one of them. So just let us know. Give us a subscribe if you like this kind of content. Appreciate it. Have a good one, guys.